Commander Thex stood at the bridge of the warship Stalwart Dawn, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the blue planet on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from up here, but the reports from his scout ships told a different story. A story that made his spine ridges rise with both fear and respect. "Sir, the latest surveillance data is ready," reported Officer Reed, her antennae twitching with nervous energy. She brought up several holographic images showing various scenes from Earth's surface. "As you can see, the humans have somehow managed to domesticate apex predators." The images showed scenes that made even the battle-hardened crew shift uncomfortably. A small human child was being attacked by a large furry beast that was licking its face. Another image showed a massive black and brown creature running alongside a human in some sort of training exercise. But most disturbing of all was the image of humans letting these beasts sleep in their homes, on their furniture, and even in their beds. "These humans," Thex whispered, his yellow eyes narrowing, "they must possess powers we cannot comprehend. To control such savage creatures, to make them guard their young." He turned to face his crew. "Update our threat assessment immediately." The bridge crew worked quickly, bringing up more data on their screens. The initial invasion plan that had seemed so simple now looked foolish in light of this discovery. How could they have known that humans had evolved to become beastmasters? "Commander," called out the sensor officer, "I'm detecting multiple concentrations of these creatures in what appear to be training facilities." The screen showed various locations labeled as dog parks and kennels. Thex felt a chill run down his spine. Training camps for their beast armies. The humans weren't just keeping a few specimens, they were breeding them, preparing them. But for what? "Look at this footage," Reed said, her voice trembling slightly. The screen showed a human facility called a police academy, where humans and their beasts worked in perfect coordination. The creatures could track scents, subdue targets, and follow complex commands. Some were even trained to detect explosives and drugs. "By the ancient stars," Thex muttered, "they turned predators into living weapons." The bridge fell silent as they watched more footage. Humans had different breeds of these creatures, each specialized for different tasks. Some were massive and powerful, while others were small, but apparently equally deadly, given how carefully humans handled them. "Sir," Reed spoke up again, "should we proceed with the invasion as planned?" Thex walked slowly to the tactical display, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. The original plan had been simple, a show of force, followed by demands for surrender. Now he wasn't so sure. "New plan," he announced. "We will contact their leaders first. I want to see how they react when confronted. Perhaps we can gauge the true extent of their power over these beasts." As the crew prepared the communication systems, Thex couldn't help but wonder about the strange path evolution had taken on Earth. His own species had evolved from prey animals, always running, always hiding, until they developed technology advanced enough to leave their predators behind. But humans had done the unthinkable. They had taken the predators themselves and turned them into allies. "Message prepared, sir," Reed announced. "Shall I send the contact request?" Thex took one last look at the images. A particularly small human child was hugging what appeared to be a massive wolf-like creature, and the beast was being gentle with it. Such control over savage animals was beyond anything his species had ever achieved. "Send it," he ordered. "But be ready to raise shields if they decide to unleash their beasts." He left the sentence unfinished, but every crew member understood. As the message was sent toward Earth, Thex couldn't shake the feeling that his species had gravely underestimated these humans. Any race that could turn apex predators into loyal servants was not to be taken lightly. The response would come soon. And then they would know whether humans would be reasonable, or whether they would have to face both the humans and their army of trained beasts. Thex only hoped he hadn't just started a war his people couldn't win. The United Nations building buzzed with nervous energy. It had been 3 days since the alien ship appeared in orbit, and now both sides had agreed to a diplomatic meeting. Captain Tom Miller adjusted his uniform one last time and looked down at Max, his golden retriever service dog, who sat calmly beside him. "Ready for this, buddy?" Tom patted Max's head. The dog's tail wagged gently in response. As Earth's leading expert in first contact scenarios, Tom had been chosen to be part of the welcoming committee. What he didn't know was that his four-legged friend was about to cause an interstellar incident. The alien shuttle landed precisely at noon. Its silver surface gleamed in the sunlight as the door opened with a soft hiss. Commander Thex emerged first, followed by Officer Reed and two guards. Their scaled skin and yellow eyes caught everyone by surprise, but the human delegation maintained their composure. That composure lasted exactly 3 seconds after Max gave a friendly woof of greeting. The reaction was instant. The alien guards raised their weapons, Commander Thex jumped backward with surprising agility, and Officer Reed's antennae went completely straight with shock. They'd brought a beast to the negotiations. Thex shouted, his translator making the words sound even more dramatic. "This is an act of aggression." Tom quickly raised his hands. No, this is Max. He's my service dog. He helps me and is completely friendly." To demonstrate, he reached down and scratched behind Max's ears. The dog responded by leaning into the scratch, tongue lolling out in a happy doggy smile. The aliens watched this display with a mixture of horror and fascination. Officer Reed's antennae twitched rapidly as she took readings with her scanner. "Commander, the beast's vital signs indicated is enjoying this contact." "Impossible," Thex declared, though he had lowered his defensive stance slightly. "These are the same creatures we observed in their training facilities, the ones they use for hunting and combat." The human delegation exchanged confused looks. Tom's mind raced as he tried to understand the aliens' perspective. Then it hit him. They thought dogs were weapons. "Please, let me explain," Tom said calmly, while Max sat perfectly still beside him. "Dogs are our companions, not our weapons. They evolved alongside us over thousands of years, from wolves who learned to work with humans for mutual benefit." The aliens' confusion only seemed to grow. "You mean to tell us," Commander Thex said slowly, "that your species convinced apex predators to become companions?" His tone suggested he didn't believe a word of it. "Watch this," Tom said. He turned to Max. "Max, shake hands." Max lifted his paw politely. The alien delegation collectively took a step back. "It's okay," Tom assured them. "He just wants to say hello." This is how dogs show friendship. Officer Reed, showing remarkable courage, took a tentative step forward. "Commander, permission to investigate this claim." Thex nodded stiffly, his hand never leaving his weapon. Reed approached slowly. Max stayed perfectly still, his tail wagging gently. When she extended her hand, Max placed his paw in it with perfect manners. "It's warm," Reed said, sounding surprised. "And it's not trying to eat me." "Of course not," Tom smiled. "Max is a good boy, aren't you?" At these words, Max's tail wagging increased, and he gave Reed's hand a gentle lick. Reed jerked her hand back, but not in fear this time. It gave me a moisture greeting." "That's called a kiss," Tom explained. "It's how dogs show affection." Commander Thex watched this exchange with growing confusion. Everything he thought he knew about humans and their beasts was being challenged. But one thing was certain. This situation was far more complex than their initial intelligence had suggested. "Perhaps," Thex said carefully, "we should begin our diplomatic discussions. But the Max stays where we can see it." "Him," Tom corrected gently. "Max is at him. And yes, he'll stay right here." As they all moved into the building, Max trotting calmly beside Tom, both humans and aliens knew this was just the beginning of a very interesting cultural exchange. Back aboard the stalwart Dawn, Commander Thex stared at the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. Officer Reed stood nearby, her antennae twitching as she played video after video on the main screen. "Sir, you need to see this," Reed said, pulling up new footage. "The humans don't just have one type of beast. They have hundreds of different varieties, each more puzzling than the last." The screen showed a park where humans gathered with their companions. There were tiny creatures that could fit in one hand, yet the humans treated them with the same careful respect as the larger ones. Even more disturbing, human children were running freely among these beasts, making high-pitched sounds that seemed to excite the creatures. "They're letting their young train with the beasts," Thex muttered, starting the conditioning process early. "That's not all, sir." Reed switched to another video. "This footage shows what they call a dog show. We believe it's some sort of combat assessment facility." The video showed perfectly groomed dogs of various breeds prancing around a ring, their humans running alongside them. Judges watched carefully, making notes. "They're evaluating their battle capabilities," Thex concluded, completely misinterpreting the Westminster Dog Show, rating their effectiveness for different combat scenarios. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Tom Miller was having his own problems. The alien delegation had requested a demonstration of normal human-beast interactions to better understand Earth culture. Tom thought a visit to a local pet store would help. He was wrong. "What is this facility?" Commander Thex demanded, his scaled skin paling at the sight of puppies playing in the display window. "It's where people come to adopt dogs," Tom explained patiently, "to give them homes and make them part of their families." The alien commander's yellow eyes widened. "You mean, this is where humans choose their combat companions?" Before Tom could correct him, a small child ran up to the window, pressing her face against the glass. A puppy immediately bounded over, licking the glass where her face was. The child giggled. The alien delegation watched in horror. "The small human is selecting its first beast?" Officer Reed asked, frantically taking notes on her tablet. "No, she's just looking at the puppies because they're cute," Tom tried to explain. "Look, maybe we should try something else. Would you like to visit a training center? See how we actually work with dogs?" Thex's spine ridges bristled. "You would show us your combat training facilities." "Not combat, just basic obedience and agility training. It's fun for the dogs and helps them be better pets." The aliens huddled together, speaking quickly in their own language. Tom caught words like tactical advantage and security risk in their translated whispers. Finally, Thex turned back. "We must decline. Our military analysts believe observing your training methods would give Earth too much leverage in future negotiations." Tom sighed. This was going nowhere. He pulled out his phone and showed them a picture of Max sleeping on his back, paws in the air, tongue slightly sticking out. "Look at this. Does this look like a fearsome weapon to you?" The alien studied the image intently. "Remarkable camouflage," Reed muttered, "appearing harmless to lower enemy defenses." Back on the Stalwart Dawn that evening, Thex reviewed all the day's observations. The more they learned about humans and their dogs, the more confusing it became. They had seen these creatures in all sizes, from tiny shaking ones humans carried in bags to massive muscular beasts that could probably swallow a crew member whole. Yet in every observation, the dogs showed complete loyalty to their humans. They obeyed commands, protected human young, and even seemed to anticipate their humans' needs. "Perhaps," Thex said to Reed as they watched more footage, "we're dealing with something far more sophisticated than simple beast mastery. The humans have created a complex social bond with predator species. Should we be worried, sir?" Thex looked at an image of a human sleeping peacefully while the large dog guarded their bed. "We should be terrified. Any species that can turn natural predators into loving guardians, imagine what they could do to us." As night fell on both Earth and the orbiting ship, neither humans nor aliens realized just how deep their misunderstanding went. And tomorrow, things would only get more complicated. The emergency meeting of the Alien Command Council aboard the Stalwart Dawn had been going for 3 hours. Commander Thex stood at the head of the table, his scales slightly paler than usual from stress. "The humans are mocking us," he declared, bringing up a hologram. "They sent this image in response to our request for a demonstration of their beast forces." The hologram showed a tiny chihuahua wearing a pink sweater, sitting on a cushion. Several council members gasped. "Clearly," Thex continued, "this is their most elite killing machine. Look how small and agile it is, perfect for infiltration missions, and they dare to dress it in pink, flaunting their superiority." Officer Reed's antennae twitched nervously as she added, "The human message accompanying this image said, 'Here's my fierce warrior, princess.' They're not even trying to hide their sarcasm." Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Tom Miller was meeting with the UN Security Council, trying to explain why the aliens had just demanded they unleash the beasts as a show of force. "They what?" asked the French representative, looking confused. "They want us to demonstrate our beast army's capabilities," Tom explained, rubbing his forehead. "They think we're being deceptive by only showing them peaceful dogs. They want to see their true power." "This is ridiculous," the British representative muttered. "What are we supposed to do? Show them a dog show?" Tom's eyes lit up. "Actually, that might work. But not a formal show. Something more natural." 2 days later, a large group of humans and their dogs gathered in a neutral meeting zone established between the alien landing site and the UN building. Tom had put out a call for therapy dogs, service dogs, and family pets. The response had been overwhelming. Commander Thex and his delegation watched from behind a protective shield as dozens of dogs of all shapes and sizes played, ran, and interacted with their humans. "Look at that tiny one," Reed whispered in horror, pointing at a chihuahua that was barking at a Great Dane. "It shows no fear facing an opponent 4 times its size. What kind of training produces such fearlessness?" The Great Dane, for its part, simply laid down and let the tiny dog climb on top of it. This caused even more confusion among the aliens. "The large beast submits to the small one," Thex noted, "just as we suspected. The tiny ones are their elite warriors." A golden retriever ran past, chasing a frisbee. The alien guards raised their weapons until they realized the dog was bringing the disc back to its human. "Projectile interception training," one guard muttered. "Impressive." Tom walked over to the alien delegation, Max trotting calmly beside him. "See, just normal dogs being dogs. Nothing threatening here." At that moment, a group of puppies broke free from their play area and rushed toward the aliens, tails wagging and tongues hanging out. The entire alien delegation backed up against their shuttle. "Control your attack squad," Thex demanded. "They're just puppies," Tom tried to explain. "They want to play." "Play? You expect us to believe these perfectly coordinated mini-beasts just happened to launch a synchronized advance on our position?" The puppies sat down, tilted their heads in unison, and gave their best puppy-dog eyes look. Several alien guards seemed to melt slightly at the sight, though they tried to hide it. "Sir," Reed whispered to Thex, "I'm getting strange readings. These small ones are emitting some kind of emotional manipulation field. My instruments show several of our crew are experiencing elevated levels of happiness." Thex stared at the puppies, then at the larger dogs still playing in the field, then at Max, who sat calmly watching everything. "This demonstration has proven one thing," he announced gravely. "The humans are far more sophisticated in their beast mastery than we initially believed. They've developed weapons that can attack not just the body, but the very emotions of their enemies." As the alien delegation retreated to their shuttle, Tom watched them go with a mixture of amusement and concern. The puppies, disappointed at losing their new potential playmates, went back to tumbling over each other in the grass. "Well, Max," Tom sighed, patting his dog's head, "that could have gone better." Max just wagged his tail, completely unaware that he and his fellow dogs had just been classified as the most sophisticated weapons system in the known galaxy. Dr. Vix, the youngest scientist aboard the stalwart Dawn, couldn't sleep. Something about the humans, beasts, kept bothering her. While the rest of the crew saw weapons and danger, she saw patterns that didn't make sense. She sat in the ship's archive room, surrounded by holographic displays of Earth dogs. "Computer, show me ancient records of our homeworld's predators," she commanded. The display shifted, showing creatures from their planet's distant past. She gasped as one image appeared. "Stop. Enhance that image." The computer zoomed in on a creature that looked remarkably similar to Earth's wolves. According to the records, these animals had gone extinct on their homeworld thousands of years ago. But before they vanished. "Computer, show me any records of interaction between our ancestors and these creatures." New images appeared, and Dr. Vix's antennae began trembling with excitement. There were cave paintings showing her people running from these predators, but also something else. Some paintings showed the creatures bringing down larger prey, with her ancestors following behind to scavenge the remains. "We didn't just run from them," she whispered. "We followed them. We learned from them." Meanwhile, Commander Thex was preparing for war. The latest report from Earth showed humans gathering in large numbers with their dogs in what they called parks and beaches. "Clearly, they're mobilizing their forces," he told his officers. "We must strike first." A quiet voice came from the back of the room. "Sir, I believe you're wrong." All heads turned to see Dr. Vix standing there, clutching her datapad. "Explain yourself, scientist," Thex demanded. "Sir, I've been studying our own history. Look at these images." She projected her findings onto the main screen. "Our ancestors once shared their world with creatures very similar to Earth's dogs, and there's evidence we might have developed a relationship with them, just like humans did with wolves." "Impossible," Thex scoffed. "Our people would never." "But we did, sir, or at least we started to. These creatures helped us survive by leading us to food. But instead of building on that relationship like humans did, our ancestors chose to flee from all predators. We evolved to run and hide. Humans evolved to connect and adapt." Officer Reed, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "That would explain the emotional manipulation field we detected from the puppies. It's not a weapon. It's an evolutionary adaptation," Dr. Vix finished. "Both species, dogs and humans, evolved to understand and care for each other." She brought up footage from Earth, showing dogs helping blind people, finding lost children, and comforting sick humans in hospitals. "These aren't weapons, Commander. They're partners, friends. The humans didn't conquer them or break them. They befriended them." Commander Thex stared at the images, his worldview slowly cracking. "But the training facilities, the commands, are about communication and cooperation, not control," Dr. Vix explained. She pulled up a private message she'd received from Captain Tom Miller. "The human captain has invited me to visit something called an animal shelter. It's where they care for dogs who don't have homes." "This is nonsense," Thex declared, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. "Next you'll tell me the tiny aggressive one in the pink outfit isn't an elite warrior." "Actually, sir," Dr. Vix brought up information about Chihuahuas. "They were bred to be companions and warn their humans of danger by barking. They're basically living alarm systems, but more focused on giving love than providing protection." The command room fell silent as everyone processed this information. Finally, Reed spoke again. "Sir, if Dr. Vix is right, we're not dealing with a species that has mastered beast control. We're dealing with something far more impressive, a species that achieved what our ancestors never could. They turned predators into family." Thex looked at the images again, seeing them with new eyes. The humans weren't showing off their weapons. They were trying to share their friends. But before he could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The human governments had noticed their military preparations and were demanding an immediate explanation. The next few hours would determine whether this revelation came in time to prevent a war. Red alert lights flashed throughout the stalwart dawn as Commander Thex faced the biggest decision of his career. Earth's military forces were on high alert, and his own fleet was positioned for attack. But Dr. Vix's revelation about their own species' history with wolf-like creatures had shaken him deeply. "Sir," Officer Reed reported, "Earth's governments are demanding we stand down our weapons. They're also sending us a video feed. Put it on screen," Thex ordered, his scales shifting color with stress. The main screen lit up to show something unexpected: a puppy training class. Dozens of small dogs of various breeds were learning basic commands, playing with toys, and interacting with their trainers. The scene was set to soft music, and the entire room was filled with happy barks and wagging tails. "What kind of psychological warfare is this?" one of the bridge officers demanded. Dr. Vix stepped forward. "It's not warfare, sir. Look at their body language, both the humans and the puppies. This is education through play. They're building bonds." On Earth, Captain Tom Miller watched the transmission feed with anxiety. The idea to show the aliens a puppy kindergarten had been his last desperate attempt to prevent war. He scratched Max's ears nervously as they waited for a response. Back on the Stalwart Dawn, the crew watched in fascination as a small pug puppy tried repeatedly to sit on command, falling over each time but getting back up with determined enthusiasm. Several alien officers made involuntary sounds that their translator interpreted as awe. "Commander," Reed whispered, "our crew's emotional readings are concerning. The footage is affecting them, just like the live puppies did." Thex watched as a human trainer gently helped a golden retriever puppy learn to shake hands, the same gesture Max had shown them during their first meeting. "This is how it begins," he realized aloud. "This is how they create their bonds." Another screen activated, showing more footage from Earth. Dogs rescuing people from burning buildings. Dogs helping children learn to read. Dogs guiding blind humans through busy streets. Dogs finding lost people in wilderness areas. Each image showed not domination or control, but partnership and trust. "Sir," one of the weapons officers called out, "our targeting systems are having trouble locking onto Earth positions. There are too many mixed life signs, human and canine together. We can't separate them." "Of course you can't," Dr. Vix said softly. "That's the point we've been missing. They're not separate. They've built their entire society together." Commander Thex stood in silence, watching the puppy class video continue. A tiny Bernese mountain dog puppy had fallen asleep in its trainer's lap, completely trusting and peaceful. "Sir," Reed reported urgently, 3 more Earth broadcasting channels are sending us similar footage. They're calling it Puppy Cam Highlights. The main screen split into multiple views. Puppies learning to swim, puppies meeting babies for the first time, puppies seeing snow for the first time, puppies trying to howl. The bridge crew found themselves unable to look away. "Commander," the weapons officer called out again. "Request permission to..." "Yes," Thex prompted. "To save some of this footage for further study," the officer finished, trying to maintain a professional tone while watching a corgi puppy try to climb stairs. Dr. Vix approached Thex with her datapad. "Sir, I've been analyzing our options. If we attack now, we're not just fighting humans. We're fighting a partnership that's been thousands of years in the making. A partnership our own ancestors could have had if they'd been brave enough to try." Thex looked at his crew. Many were trying to hide their reactions to the puppy footage, but he could see their usual military discipline cracking. Even Reed's antennae were swaying in what their species recognized as a sign of emotional effect. He made his decision. "Send a message to Earth," he commanded. Tell them we request a diplomatic meeting. And," he paused, his scales shifting to a slightly embarrassed color, "ask if they could bring more puppies." The tension on the bridge broke as several crew members failed to suppress their relief. As the message was sent, Dr. Vix quietly updated her research notes. Day 7 of Earth observation. Humanity's greatest weapon may not be their technology or their dogs, but their ability to make friends with those they could have feared. 1 week after the puppy video incident, Commander Thex found himself in a situation he never could have imagined. He was sitting in a human park, watching a group of dogs play while Dr. Vix took readings and Officer Reed tried to hide her fascination with a nearby Jack Russell Terrier. "You see, Commander," Captain Tom Miller explained, sitting beside him with Max at his feet. "Every dog breed has its own personality and traits, but they all share one thing. They chose to be our friends." Thex was about to respond when shouts erupted from the playground nearby. A small human child had climbed too high on the play equipment and was stuck. Before any adults could react, a large German shepherd ran to the scene, positioning itself under the child. "Stay calm, Emily," the dog's handler called out. "Duke will catch you." The child, trusting the dog completely, let go. Duke caught her fall perfectly, letting her land safely on his broad back before gently lowering her to the ground. The child immediately hugged the dog, who licked her face as parents rushed over. "That's..." Thex struggled to find words. "That's not trained behavior, is it?" "No," Tom smiled. "Duke just knew a member of his family needed help. That's what dogs do." Dr. Vix's antennae were twitching excitedly as she recorded the incident. The neural bond between them is remarkable. The dog anticipated the exact trajectory needed to ensure the child's safety. "It's not neural technology," Tom laughed. "It's love. Pure and simple." The alien delegation watched as Duke received treats and praise, his tail wagging proudly. Nearby, other dogs continued playing, though several had paused to watch the excitement. "To think," Reed said quietly, "our ancestors could have had this. If they'd just been brave enough to try friendship instead of running away." "It's not too late," a new voice said. They turned to see an elderly woman approaching with a basket. Behind her trotted the smallest corgi puppy any of them had ever seen. "I'm from the local shelter," she explained. "Tom called me. Would you like to meet this little one? She was rescued last week, and she needs a home." The corgi puppy looked up at the aliens with bright eyes and a tiny wagging tail. Commander Thex, who had faced down space pirates and navigated meteor storms without flinching, felt his heart melt. "Her name is Hope," the shelter worker said, gently placing the puppy in Thex's surprised hands. "Because we never lose it." The puppy immediately snuggled into Thex's scales, finding them warm and comfortable. To everyone's surprise, she began making a soft purring sound. "That's new," Tom commented. "I've never seen a dog purr before." "She's adapting," Dr. Vix realized excitedly. Just as dogs learn to understand human emotions, she's already learning to communicate in a way that appeals to our species. The corgi puppy looked up at Thex and gave his chin a tiny lick. The mighty commander of the stalwart Dawn, terror of 3 star systems, giggled. "I believe," he said, trying to regain his composure while the puppy continued to snuggle, "that we have much to learn from humanity. Not about weapons or warfare, but about friendship and trust." "Does this mean you'll be staying?" Tom asked. Thex looked at his officers. Reed was now sitting on the ground, letting the Jack Russell teach her to play fetch. Dr. Vix was comparing notes with a human scientist about canine genetics, and in his arms, Hope had fallen asleep, completely trusting her new alien friend. "Yes," he decided, "we have much to learn from Earth. And perhaps," he looked down at the sleeping puppy, "perhaps we can help some of these wonderful creatures find homes among the stars." As the sun set on the park, humans and aliens sat together, watching dogs play and realizing that sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't made through conquest or fear, but through an open heart and a willingness to see friendship where others might see danger. And Hope, the tiny corgi puppy who would become the first dog to be adopted by an alien commander, slept peacefully, dreaming of all the adventures yet to come. The end.